All right, so if you've been watching this channel, you know probably for a fact that this channel's been hot and heavy for a while with the serious shit. All right, not today. Today we're taking a break from that, hopefully forever. All right, because I'm feeling like I'm out of that stage. I'm mostly out of the stage, anyways. We're gonna talk about some fun shit, some serious shit. UFO theories. All right, now what kind of sparked this interest for me was I had an event that I cannot explain, and that was about a month ago. And then I got this book called Hunt for the Skinwalker, and it's about Skinwalker Ranch, if anybody's familiar with that. If not, look it up quick. The wiki summary should do enough for you to kind of tell you what it's about. So yeah, I've just been kind of interested in UFOs and paranormal shit lately. I don't know why, but it's just gripping my interest. So this is going to be the virtual equivalent of cracking a cold one with the boys. The mountains are blue, and let's get into it. Grab yourself a beer, a little snack, whatever you want, and yeah, let's get into it. All right, so theory number one. I believe we're kind of like we could be like in an experiment. So kind of like the Elon Musk simulation theory, except we have control over ourselves. Like I don't think there's somebody with like a joystick telling me to snap my fingers right now or have this thought in my head. I think we do have control over ourselves and our actions and so on and so forth. But with this theory, I think it's also important to consider that like we've been supposedly at least to the moon, all right? But we've never really been past there. So my theory would be we could just be in like, I think of like the Hunger Games or like the Maze Runner. We could essentially be in like a bubble that is just surrounding. There's our Earth in it, and then there's the moon over here, and we are just in a projected world essentially. The important premise of this theory is basically when we are about to kill ourselves as a race, so we got nuclear missiles just aimed at each other, they're ready to go off, people are just fingers right over the red button. That's when the people from the sky, you know, whoever that may be, whether it's us or a completely different species, they're gonna come down, they're gonna be like, no, hold up, you don't have to kill yourselves, this is an all experiment, you guys fucked it up, and they're gonna save us from ourselves, essentially. I like that theory because it's basically, it's a little bit of salvation at the end of all of it. At the end of all this, I really thought with 2020 how effed up this year's been. I thought the aliens would have kind of revealed themselves to us just because it's been such a dumbass year, but apparently not. So, on to the next one. Theory numero dos. They really are beings from a faraway galaxy, far more advanced than we are. So they could be studying us, watching us, or figure we're just so dumb we'll just end ourselves and they don't even need to interfere. They don't need to do anything. So they're watching us, studying us, but they're like, wow, these people are literally just gonna end their own race. They're killing their own planet at an aggressive rate. The bees are dying. Like, there's no way. We don't even need to do anything. Let's just watch it play out. Or maybe so this is kind of a two-part theory. So that's the first part is, yeah, they are like a completely different set of beings from another planet or galaxy. But part two of this theory would be like, everything we see, like right here is our reality, right? Now, what if you could like peel back like right here, and behind all this, it's weird, but like behind all this, the wrap of reality that we have, you could just walk through it and go to a different dimension, a parallel universe or something like that. And maybe they figured out how to do that. And that's why like that Skinwalker Ranch book is like, they describe a couple different times where the people have seen into these portals that these ships come out of, and it looks like the portal's like a hole in the sky or whatever, but inside that portal, they can see that other world. And maybe they've just figured it out. So essentially like I don't know if it has to do with black holes because that's more of a space thing, or if this applies to like parallel dimensions and shit, but essentially the black hole would be like, you have like a point here and a point here. Now normally to get there, you'd have to go here. But the black hole, you bend time and space, and you just go bam. All right, so maybe they figured out that with either, like I said, either galaxies or dimensions. And yeah, maybe they're just able to hop from one to the other. Infinite number of parallel universes, or they're just on a constant loop, and that's why we have deja vu, which is another kind of part of this theory. Is like, when you have deja vu, it could be because you're doing the same thing in another dimension, in another universe, or time is on a continuous loop and you've already done it before, and that's why you're like, wow, I feel like I've definitely done this before, even though you've never done it before. That's theory number 2. All right, theory 3, which is the most convincing one to me, is that like aliens, things we see in the sky, it's just literally the future us. So for this one, think about how like the Wright brothers, they had their first flight at Kitty Hawk, or where the hell it was, in 1903, and now we have Airbus A380s, and we've had them for quite a while now, that take off at literally over 1 million pounds, 4 engines, and can just go like insane distances. So we, within the span of a little over probably 100 years, or a little over 100 years, we technologically advanced aircraft that much. So at that rate, if you consider, if we keep advancing like that we would theoretically be able to figure out like anti-gravity, essentially, in different ways of flying that don't use like typical combustion. The craft that like Bob Lazar talks about, who used to work in Area 51, they work on basically anti-gravity, and the easiest way I can think to explain that, which is how he explained it, is like, so say you put a bowling ball to rest on a bed, and then you put your fist in front of it, all right? Now that bowling ball, it goes towards that. So that's essentially what's happening with these supposed spaceships that he's worked on and seen. Now, if you also think about the typical description of an alien, it's like they have like pallid gray skin, they're shorter, and they have bigger heads. Well, that's kind of what's happening to us already. Like, we're getting smaller as a species, and like with more races mixing with each other, eventually, you know, there might not even be such a thing as race 100 years from now. We could all be like just the same color or something like that. And there's just, think about how many like physical labor, like manual tasks that computers have gotten rid of, that we don't need to be as big, we don't need to be as strong anymore. So like as a species, we just get smaller. And what I mean by like future us is like, we've literally just kept getting smaller and smaller, and our brains grew, so our heads obviously had to get bigger to accomplish, or to accommodate that. And yeah, so maybe we learned how to use both sides of our brain by that point, and that's why we can send telepathic messages to people and shit like that. But yeah, so basically, we figure out time travel with anti-gravity and element 115. So anti-gravity, it bends time, so it doesn't really, like, it alleviates the need for time, essentially. I don't know, listen to the Bob Lazar podcast. He does on Joe Rogan. He does a way better job of explaining than I can. But yeah, so we figure out element 115, because, you know, Elon Musk, we're going to Mars, we're going to the moon and shit like that. And, you know, somewhere out there on one of these planets, on one of these missions, we find element 115. Now, element 115 is stable, and we figure out how to utilize it. Well, because of that could be years from now that happens, but those people that are coming back, which would essentially be us, those beings that look different than we do, but would really be us, they would come back, and maybe there's some catastrophic event that happened in the future that was like the end of the world as we know it, essentially. They needed to come back to somewhere around this time, and they needed to stop it, because it's just like a, what do you call that? Like a chain link of events or whatever. And there's some chain link around this time that they need to come back and try and figure out what it was and change it, so that the world doesn't end for them in the theoretical future. All right, now those are my 3 quick theories. I'm sure I could have elaborated on those a little bit more. If you have any questions, just ask in the comments. Otherwise, I'd be excited to hear anybody else's opinions. Like UFO, that shit gets me, like, just talking about it just gets me hyped up. Like, the possibility. I think, like, if you are completely closed off to the possibility that we are completely alone on the strange rock in the universe, I think you're a bit of a certified dummy, and we should probably look into it a little bit more. But anyways, yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk, and we'll see you next video.